I'd like to call it to order the advertised and stated monthly meeting of the Lower Moreland Township Board of Commissioners, November 8th, 2022. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we start our regular agenda items, we have a special accommodation to present. Would Eagle Scout Adam Bryce please come forward? Actually, you can face the audience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Lower Moreland Township. Whereas Adam Bryce Addison of Troop 116 Cradle Liberty completed the extensive requirements to attain the Eagle Scout Award, the highest advancement rank in Boy Scouting earned. And whereas Adam's Eagle Scout Award project focused on constructing a new songbird trail of 10 nesting boxes at Norristown Farm Park. And whereas, in addition to his Boy Scout honors and achievements, Adam is a senior at Lower Moreland High School, while also attending Eastern Center for Arts and Technology, where he is studying to be an electrician. Adam used his building skills acquired over the years and his love of animals towards his Eagle Scout project. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Lower Moreland Township does hereby commend Adam Bryce Addison for completing the requirements for the Eagle Scout Award, adopted this 8th day of November, 2022. Congratulations. Yeah, the parents come on. I'll have his commissioner stand by as well.
Thank you.
Adam, congratulations.
Thank you.
You want to hold this? Your parents can see on their side.
Always drop that.
Congratulations. Okay, public participation on agenda items will be taken as each item is discussed. The chair now recognizes Commissioner ODHNER, Chair of the Ordinance Committee.
Thank you. My first item is review and consider non-discrimination ordinance. The Board of Commissioners voted to again advertise the non-discrimination ordinance for consideration. The ordinance has been advertised as prescribed by law and may be considered by the board at the November 8th, 2022 meeting. Any questions or comments?
Okay, similar to what we did last month, we're going to allow the Board of Commissioners to comment first. Then we'll go to Lower Moreland residents in the room, Lower Moreland residents on Zoom. Then I'll allow any outside, from other townships who want to briefly make a comment. I'll allow it at the very end, and then the Board of Commissioners will vote. So any of the commissioners would like to first make comments?
Does anybody who doesn't care for this ordinance want to speak first? I don't know.
Just go this way here.
Okay, well, I will be happy to speak to it. Hi, I'm Rittenhausen. I'm Commissioner for Ward 1 here in Lower Moreland, and I asked for this ordinance it's about a year ago, and John Rice wrote this up. It is not everything we might want, because I might want, because it doesn't have a human relations commission like most of the ordinances do. Instead, what it has is a mediator. So it makes it much more difficult to be against this ordinance because the mediator is volunteer. And in a smaller meeting, some of the commissioners pointed out that she might require some training, or whoever becomes our mediator might require some training, and there might be some costs associated with that. But it's insignificant compared to what we could possibly save. So this ordinance makes it illegal, essentially, to discriminate against all the protected classes that are already protected in the federal government, plus the LGBTQ community. Right now, there are rules in the federal government through the EEOC. And supposedly the state is going to start putting out rules through their HRC to protect the LGBTQ community. These are not laws. Make no mistake about it. The federal rules are based on the Supreme Court decision for marriage equity. We all know they stated it as something they want to do. They'd like to reverse that decision. If they do, we can easily see these rules going out the window. And that is my opinion, true. But it's also based on research and the fact that the Attorney General's office has contacted us. And State Representative Nancy Gens, who said she might also be here to speak tonight, had contacted me and asked me to get this ordinance passed. Because without this ordinance in our local community, in order for someone of that particular community, the LGBTQ community, to get a grievance resolved, they would have to go, right now, they would have to go federal. And that is bad for the business, bad for our community, bad for everyone involved. What this ordinance will do is it'll give us a local mediator who can help resolve this situation that usually are caused by misunderstandings. Who can help resolve it quietly, effectively, efficiently, and without a federal lawsuit, hopefully without lawyers. Of course, somebody might want one, but they don't have to this way. We can try to get things handled in-house with no issues. Okay, and that is why I went door to door to a bunch of businesses, not alone, but with friends, to a bunch of businesses. I went to 19 businesses. Well, I went to 20, but the owners weren't there twice, so I gave up. But I went to 19 businesses in our town, and I asked them if they would be willing to sign a petition, which reads as such. Excuse me, but the only way you're going to know what it says is, in signing on to this statement, we agree that it is in the best interest of the Township of Lower Moreland to pass an ordinance banning discrimination in public accommodation and employment based on actual or perceived race, color, sex, religion, ancestry, genetic information, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, familial status, marital status, age, veteran status, mental or physical disability, use of guide or support animals and or mechanical aids. An ordinance would also create a volunteer mediator appointed by the Board of Commissioners to enforce the law. A local ordinance will ensure that complaints are dealt with in a timely manner. We support the passage of the ordinance because it sends a clear message to residents, workers, and visitors that Lower Moreland is a township that is welcoming to all. So I did focus just now on the LGBTQ community because they're the ones who will first benefit by this. But the truth is, we will all benefit from this. there are businesses that will not come to our community because we do not have this type of ordinance. There are people who feel put upon because we do not have this type of ordinance. We are a diverse community now. I recognized 20 years ago when I moved in, the most exotic person was probably me. At least in my ward, I was both a Democrat and a Jew. Other wards had lots of Jewish people, but you know, in mine, I was, you know, the unicorn. But I still loved it here. I love it here to this day. And I would not have put this ordinance forth if I did not believe that it was in the best interests of this town, this township, and this community. Just so that you know, I also, while I'm here, want to thank Mr. President, Dr. SIRKEN, for his support of this ordinance, for making sure it stayed on the agenda, for putting it forward for passage. We are quite grateful to him for all of that, and to his family for their support for him as well. I am willing to take questions if anybody wants it. Is that okay with you?
I would let the commissioners speak first, yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. Yes.
Any other commissioners like to make a comment before we go to public comment? Okay, we'll open it up to Lower Moreland residents in the room. Please come up, give your name and address for the record. Thank you. Yeah, come on up. Yeah.
Shall I stand or stand?
You can stand there.
Michelle Schwartz, 2544 Walton Road. I can't believe I have to be here standing. Every time something like this comes up, I get phone calls, text messages saying, what are we gonna do? And I say, we're gonna show up and we're gonna say our piece. And they say, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I have too much to lose. I have a business here. I need an addition on my house. I'm really scared of the outcome. I want you to know how much guts it takes for all of us to be here today. It eats our hearts out. And for many people who are not here, they're not here because you have so much power. We fear you and the power you have in our community. And the same token, we need to know we trust you. And you can give us your trust by saying yes to this anti-discrimination ordinance. What does an anti-discrimination ordinance say? It says Lower Moreland values you. You belong here. You deserve access to the services, businesses, restaurants that are located here. It says you deserve to be respected in the town where you live, where you work, where you learn, and where you do business. Unfortunately, since this ordinance has been proposed, those who don't want it have been called out, but those who do want it have been called out for being divisive. People demanding to have their beliefs valued is unpalatable to people who hold power. And that's what's causing this division. Last month, there was an unfortunate misunderstanding around a Halloween event set to take place at Lamb Funeral Home at the Shalom in Forest Hill Cemetery. They had inadvertently advertised that there would be hay rides and movies and games taking place in the cemetery. And it caused a lot of animosity, fear. A lot of people felt like their values were being undermined. You don't have a party in a cemetery where your loved ones are. And the community spoke out and they spoke to Lamb. And I know they reached out to the township because it's in Lower Moreland.
That's so much
And
crap.
in this discussion, we heard things come up. Jewish people, Jewish Russian people were referred to as you people. Suddenly, when we spoke up and said this is not appropriate, we became you people as opposed to being part of this community. Luckily, the people at Lamb were able to speak to us and ultimately cancel the event because they couldn't come back from this public relations night. It is not okay to be called you people. I am not you people. I am just people. And asking to be recognized and protected as such should not be this. I'm asking you, please, say yes to the anti-discrimination ordinance. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Klein, 3911 Pine Road, and I'm not at this very moment because it just came from a great day of being at the polls. But in general, I'm outraged. The fact that we're here still discussing this is just not okay. I'm disgusted with living in a community that is so divided by politics. When are people going to wake up and realize we are just one community with seemingly common goals? It just shouldn't be this difficult. Here's what we want for our people. We want exceptional education, a safe place for our children and everybody, clean and beautiful landscapes and streets, and an equal opportunity to live safely with all of our residents. If this ordinance, and this is my opinion, if been proposed by a Republican commissioner, I feel there would not have been backlash. The fact that it came out of the Ruth's mouth automatically is, how can we make this go away? And as the community, and I know Ruth personally, a Democrat, but it just objectively does not look like a fair fight. And I'm really not happy to have to witness things here with our commissioners to serve a political bound. It doesn't matter what your party is. We're part of the same community. It doesn't even matter from whom it comes. These ordinances could be, we really think, it's not how we make Ruth go away. There is nothing divisive about this ordinance. There's no cost. There's only benefit. How can you look at it with a political view? If you look at it from a community perspective, it's just that simple. And to draw it out and to make people go against each other is just so opposite who we are as a community and who we want to be as a community. This township is growing more and more diverse over time. I've been in Lower Moreland for years, but in my house for 21 years. It has changed dramatically. Everybody's moving in, everybody's moving out. This is our community, okay? This is great. This is what it should be. Everybody in this room, everybody in this community needs protection. They need to feel safe. They need to feel heard. They need to feel accepted. And we have their backs. We are neighbors. We are friends. We are relatives. We're here for each other, not to fight, not to go against each other and find reasons to disagree. Let's find more reasons to work together for the common good. I believe this ordinance does that. And again, no politics involved. It's an ordinance. It helps people. That's who we are. We're just people. So let's see if we can move past politics because we're peers. Let's take care of each other and let's do the right thing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tira Keel. I live at 3454 Surrey Road. So I have 5 children. They don't always get along. And something that, you know, is really hard to teach them, and if you have to do it over and over and over, I'm sure other parents relate to this, is just because they're doing something that bothers you doesn't mean you can smack them. Or just because they have a toy you want doesn't mean you can take it from them. And hopefully our children learn this. My kids are sort of growing out of these behaviors along with sometimes accepting that the consequences aren't worth the crime. This ordinance just makes me think of the adult version of this, right? All it is saying, you can't treat someone badly simply because they live their life differently than you do. That's all it's saying. And it's not gonna cost us anything. We'll have a volunteer mediator. If it's an issue of money for training, I'll chip in. Like, there are no barriers that anybody has proposed so far that say to me, oh, that's the reason why, good point. No, none. We need to put this ordinance into place. It's overdue. So I would ask you please to vote in favor of this ordinance.
Up with day 2472 down, everybody in here, because I come to the meetings. I will tell you this, people more here tonight in this room, I haven't seen it this packed in a very, very long time. So thank you for coming out. John, you know, I spoke to you several times on this ordinance. You wrote this ordinance. I read it probably 10 times over. It's a very simple ordinance. It's to protect the township. The township means us, who's in this room here tonight. The businesses. I told the last meeting, because he told he gave me more information. I went back, I read it again. Okay, I must have read it 10 times. It's very simple. The wording is very simple. So it's not a confusing ordinance, but some things, more information were given out. We had a commissioner who did research, had records, had a letter from the state senator. I talked to people. And the state senator told me, I don't know what letter she's talking about. When a state senator presents a letter to a commissioner, I think it should be shared with the public so we know what we're talking about. And we know what she's talking about. And she told me, she said, I honestly don't know what letter was sent to the commissioner of Lower Moreland. So when you have something, shouldn't it be, it should be shared with the members of, it should be shared with the members.
From the that gets published in the bulletin, and then there's a time period where you can submit comments in IRRC, which is the kind of repository for where those comments go. No letter was shared directly with the township. The letter that I think was signed off on is one of the letters that's posted to the IRRC website. So that's not a township.
So should that information be given to the public that night?
The information.
I've never seen it, Chuck.
Okay, well, I didn't say you did.
But it's part of the rulemaking that
Right.
the state goes through, so it's not something that anybody sitting up here
Never seen.
received from a state senator. I know Chris was following it online, the rulemaking part of it, so it's there for the public to look at. I mean, but it's not something directed to Lower Moreland Township.
Yeah, we don't get direct comments.
Yeah, we don't get that.
Rule changes.
But that's not the way it was presented that night, though.
Well, I don't know, Chuck, I don't understand what you thought was presented, but I'm telling you that was a rule change that the PHRC, the State Commission, Human Rights Commission, pursued this to do with anything coming through Lower Moreland
And maybe it was mispresented that night, John.
or misunderstood.
Well, I don't think I misunderstood the word, but I watched it on the film too. I went back and I watched to make sure I understood what was said that
So
night.
you think a letter came to this board?
To a commissioner on this board that she shared that night, and she said that she received a letter from a state senator, Maria Collette.
Ruth did.
No,
Check the minutes. We can go back and watch the video and
Yes.
I'll transcribe it verbatim.
right. That's what was confusing to me, because I thought that there with the public that night, and it wasn't. And when I contacted the state senator's office, I said, what did you say that we should know about this ordinance? She's told me, I don't know what you're talking about. So that's where the confusion came in with me. That's why I'm here asking that question tonight.
And I think what you're hearing from.
And I got it from Chris. I
Chris and
understood
I,
what Chris said, yes.
that there was nothing said to Lower Moreland Township.
Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair. And the other disturbing thing that I found, myself and Mr. George, we're pretty much here at all these meetings and, we take the stand, we have our complaints about some developments.
There's signatures there, so I'll send you the.
Yeah, send me this, will you? Thank you.
With several other state senators in support of the rule change.
Right, of the rule change, right. Okay, so, but when there was a young lady here and I found this very disturbing. She was up here saying that how she was in favor of the ordinance and how her children were 2 and I believe of a younger age and how this ordinance, she would feel very much comfortable with this ordinance in place because it would protect her children. And I was listening and I was watching the commissioners and I found it very disturbing that Denise, you were talking through the whole time this lady was talking. So, I don't ask for a lot of respect from the Board of Commissioners when I'm up here speaking because I come to all the meetings, but and she started to cry. And that's what got me a little upset
I'm
because.
sorry if I disrespected you in any way,
But-
but I think I was whispering, like asking solicitor.
Yeah, but see, the
question.
hardest part was though, I see her, but you didn't see her.
Well,
And
let's.
that, and what time, let me finish, I have the floor.
Time out.
Okay,
Let's.
let's not
Let's move
disrespect
from
you,
the
John.
personal criticism.
No,
to-
that's not disrespect.
This is comment on the ordinance, so.
And I'm allowed to make comments, John,
Go ahead.
okay? All
Go
right,
ahead.
I'm just asking
Not
for
questions,
for
comments.
respect, that's all.
We're waiting to hear.
I mean, this ordinance has been thrown through the mud and put back on and re-advertised again. Just look at this room here tonight and let our commissioners vote on it and let the votes lay where they lay. And that's the simplest thing to
That's
do.
gonna happen, but we need comments on the ordinance.
The ordinance should be passed, John, because I said at the very beginning, it protects the entire township of Lower Moreland. It protects the community. And here tonight, this is the community. Thank you.
Good evening, Judy Moss, 144 Barker Road, Danville, again. Here I am. I grew up privileged in a duplex apartment. My parents never could afford a house. We didn't have a car. So my grandfather died and left it to my father. I went to a public school that was brand new in Philadelphia. It was a whole big deal, Mayfair Elementary. 2 years ago, Denise and her friends were collecting school supplies for Mayfair School. And I brought bags because I went there and I couldn't believe they were the least funded school in Philadelphia when they were their banner when I was a child. I grew up privileged. I went to a minister. People sat in the corner and never interacted with us. I never did anything to them. Why did they ignore me? Because I was never taught about Harriet Tubman. I was never taught about Juneteenth. We knew about slavery, but until I saw Roots, I didn't know about slavery. I grew up with a friend who was a girl who became a boy. Still my friend. He's my friend. I don't care. My mother was talking about her friend on the bus that she loved, and my father said, "Oh, bring her to dinner." And that was the first time I ever sat and had a conversation with a Black person. I was 13. This is my community. These are my people. Everybody belongs in this community. Why can't we put it out there? You belong. Has anybody ever said to you or made you feel that you were racist, misogynistic, homophobic, anti-Semitic? Because if you feel that people feel that way about you, that's how you present yourself. You present yourself, I'm white and I'm privileged. I grew up white and I am privileged. And my privilege means that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight for people that don't have my privilege. These people don't have my privilege. because they're not white, because they're not straight, because they're not Christian. I don't know what the objection is. I know if we cut ourselves open, we're all the same on the inside. We all bleed, we all hurt, we all have children that we love and we want to protect. We have neighbors that we love and we want to protect. We want businesses to come in here and say, oh, go start a business in Lower Moreland because they welcome everyone because everyone belongs. Do better.
Any other comments from the room for Lower Moreland?
Name's Sybil Matthew, and I live at 3870 Ramage Run. I've lived here since 2016, and this year's the very first time I've had the privilege of attending one of these Board of Commissioner meetings. Between my husband and I, we've now paid a babysitter 3 times to come here and to really get involved, because to hear that anyone is against a non-discrimination ordinance for all kinds of technicalities and reasons is really disturbing. I've had commissioners on this board try to, speak to me and explain things to me and tell me they can advise me. But I mean, if you look at me, it's pretty obvious. I don't need my lived experience and my humanity explained to me. I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty reasons of why we need this ordinance. There's been so many eloquent people here that have come here meeting after meeting and explained that to you. But I would like to read something to you that should make a difference. The horrific death of George Floyd provided a laser focus on a global problem that is more well known than COVID-19 has existed for centuries, has been studied and yet often is ignored or minimized by those who are least impacted by it: racism. To respond to it requires that you open your eyes to see it, open your heart to understand it, and open your mind to help solve it. To better the solution to racism, social problem, and not dismiss it or ignore. It's easier to see the world from a lens of comfort, to exist in a chosen echo chamber, or to believe that catalyst for change in your corner, and for a little soul searching, that might be a good start for all of us. This was written by Dr. David H. SIRKEN, president of the Lower Moreland Township Board of Commissioners, in the Lower Moreland Township newsletter of summer 2020. I remember receiving this newsletter. I remember reading it, and as a resident, I remember feeling proud that I'm a resident here. And I remember coming now the 3rd time and feeling horrified that I'm coming here for this, and for a lot of behind the scenes actions that I've heard and witnessed and experienced in this town. I have 2 small children that I'm raising. They attend the school district here. My older son has an intellectual disability in the life skills class. He goes on field trips with his life skills teacher, and he goes into the cafes, or he, waits at a bus stop. And the experiences that he has is people getting annoyed with him, people getting upset with them, people getting upset that they're taking a long time to count their change or don't know how to step up on the bus. This is my child's lived experience. This is the experience that my family is experiencing. What I would like is to feel welcome in this township. I want my children to feel welcome in this township. Coming here for a 3rd time for this is not me feeling welcome. So I want to say, if you can write these words, I don't want you to just talk the talk. I want you to walk the walk. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from Lower Moreland in the room today? Come on up.
I am Shana Sullivan, at 2424 Walton Road. We speak last month. I was able to share with you about my hopes for my trans daughter, who has been a resident here in Moreland for her whole life. And at that time, I urged you with my hope that you would pass the ordinance so that she would feel welcome and valued and safe in the township that is her home. But today, I guess, inspired by the fact that it is election day, I also wanted to urge you to pass the ordinance so that you can uphold her freedom to be her most authentic self without discrimination. And again, this place that is her home. You know, she didn't ask to suddenly have to exist under a specter of discrimination, to have to look over her shoulder, to be constantly second guessing her interactions with people, just as, you know, nobody who's any kind of minority or vulnerable community asks for their various intersecting oppressions. No one wants that. But like many, regardless, she's still showing up for her life. She's working hard. She's playing by the rules. She is trying to be a good citizen and a good neighbor. And I went to college today so that she could vote in her own township. And I know that, like her, you don't that is afforded to all of us to be living in a democracy and to have opportunity to be civically engaged and to make choices about the to protect the freedom of my child to be herself, her authentic self, in this place that she calls her home. Thank you.
My name is Jessica Burr. I live at 95 Byberry Road. I was at the one thing that I came tonight for is that I was hoping that the commissioners would talk more about why they were opposed to it, because I don't understand. Yeah. While I was at the Pine Road Parade, one of the commissioners, another resident, the first thing that drew my attention was the foul language and all the other parents raised eyebrows. But from what I heard, they felt that this was outside of the role of the commissioners, that you deal with leaf and trash collection. And I felt that this was disturbingly dismissive. I thought that your role was to protect and address the interests of this township, of these people. And to me, this is the same process in our neighboring communities went through to get this passed. I realize that we may be structured differently, but if it's not here, I don't understand where. I'm in for it. Thank you very much, everyone, for speaking. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I wasn't planning to speak, but I've been speaking with Ruth this morning and I was listening to all of you and it's amazing. I'm Darshini Chakravarti. I've been in Lower Moreland since 2009. And I would say when I moved in, it was the same thing. I was, very much did feel a bit more of a minority. Some of you might know I ran for the school board back in, I forget now, it was a while back. But I just want to share my experiences of why I decided I wouldn't run again, because I was at the polling stations. And I've been running, and I had people come up to me and ask me what religion I was. And I thought that was odd. And I said, well, I'm Hindu. I'm, let's say, non-practicing Hindu, but I'm Hindu. And he said, okay, good. We're just glad you have a religion. Then I was asked if I was pro-life or pro-choice. And I didn't see how these questions should be relevant because we don't make those decisions anyway. It's not like I'm going to influence the curriculum. So, but after that, I stepped back. And I started raising my children not to speak up and not to say things. And now I'm looking here at this, just the diversity, and it's giving hope. So, and I honestly, I wasn't really paying much attention to this audience, I'll be honest. And, and I started thinking about it more. Very annoyed with it. And she just said, Mom, I just want to lay low, and that's all. I just want to get through school and I'm fine. That's not what I want So I don't want her to feel that. And so that's where I thought, now I am going to start being a little bit more active. And again, with this ordinance, I don't know enough to sort of speak on that. But if you need volunteers, we're here. I'm sure there's so many of us that would come out of our shells to help in that manner. Yes, again, with the finances, but I'm sure there's solutions to that side. But my thing is, I'm loving this diversity, and I'm looking at the board, and I'm thinking, how are we not moving? And you guys are on that side of everything else online. I'm listening, so that's all I have to say.
Excuse me, can you share your address for them?
3699 Copper Beach, so.
Well. Eric on 3883 Buck Road. Thank you once again for bringing it forward. Like all of the other residents, you kind of get frustrated because you feel like you're saying the same thing over and over and over again. I wonder why not being heard. This is really a moment for you to bring people together instead of being so divisive. I was wondering, why did this go down the road into the Atlantis election? Isn't that? It's buried at the bottom. Why tonight? Maybe you were hoping we wouldn't be here, but in case you haven't noticed, each time you delay it, more people show up. Delay it again, more people show up. Make a crazy comment, we show up and we call it out. It is time to stop. We will not discriminate. One person came up and made an analogy about the schools and parenting, where schools are no place for hate, but our township isn't. Do the right thing. There have been absolutely no objections from residents in every single meeting, month after month after month. Heard from the folks in the calls yet. I hope this doesn't get politicized and that we suddenly hear objections from folks month after month who haven't said anything, but we'll see. This is your moment to bring people together. We've already heard about how a particular commissioner was out dropping a Halloween. Thank you very much to the watching, people are listening, and people are looking at you. And so if you show up intoxicated at an event, dropping F-bombs in front of children, talking about why you're not going to vote for this, and we show up tonight to let you know why you should, we are watching you. Take a look at us, see us, hear us. Thank you very much.
Switch to Wi-Fi on their laptop because the Zoom connection might drop.
Okay, so
we can get through the lower Moreland comment, then we just need a quick reset.
any more comments from the room before we go to Zoom? Come on up.
Oh, no.
Well, now you know you have someone else after me. Hi.
Name and address.
Serena Nguyen, Nguyen, 307 Lamplighter Lane. My name is Serena Nguyen. My family moved to Lower Moreland in 2007. After much careful consideration about where the best place to raise our
family would be. And as you can see, I'm still alive at 36, and I came to care about this community enough to participate in local matters. So did a good job. Like our neighbors, we continually decide to stay here because we believe it's a good place and one that'll just keep getting better with time. With great leadership, like my dad loves the mulching, the leaf mulching. For this, honestly, I thought but the time really gets, and I've been able to see how and things that I like have learned since were misconceptions of like past decisions and stuff, and 100% with everything that leadership does. Like the core of it all is everyone always cares most about this township, but everyone else already talked about that, so I won't continue on about that. I love how everyone can chime in about what improvement looks like in this township. And so I'm going to chime in. I support the non-discrimination ordinance. I'm here representing a demographic that probably isn't often present in discussion of local matters. A large, growing, and increasingly diverse group is at a crossroads where we have to make the same decision that my parents did. Where do I want to go? Where do I want to settle and start my family? Where do I want to start my business? Do I want to stay here because I already have like a start here and continue to contribute on this legacy, or do I want to move somewhere where I know for sure I can safely build the life I deserve? I think that there are layers to who each of us are, and many of these we have no choice over, but for the most part, we can decide how to express ourselves around others. And I think the same can be said for entities like townships and cities, like for the policies that they endorse. So I hope that this ordinance is one of them. Thank you.
And I was planning to come up and speak tonight, but one of the points that I did not get to make last month was the fact that I don't think has anyone ever had, great, look, there's people that have worked with mediators, and I have as well. I have two. Once in college, I had a really loud boomy bass in my roommate, or not my roommate, the people that lived downstairs, and that was affecting my sleep schedule. And so I used the campus resources, and I worked with a mediator to figure out that problem. And basically it was that I got the guy's number and I would text him if the music was too loud and he would turn it down. And that was that. We walked in, we had maybe a 30-minute discussion with the mediator, and we walked out and the problem was solved. And additionally, I had a roommate at school, and we found a mediator to solve the problem. We had a discussion and it was solved. And so I just want to highlight, I know that some of the concerns was over this mediator individual and like kind of what that would be like. And I just wanted to highlight that it's not a state any of my situations. I was able to solve it with the mediator. And so that was one thing that I wanted to highlight. And I also just want to highlight the disrespect that's been happening from the board, specifically the president, who is not looking at people who are speaking. And I think that that is really hard as a speaker, as somebody who comes up here to like tell the story, that it's really important to have the contact and the engagement from the Board of Commissioners. And if you don't get that, that can be really scary and sad. And so again, you know, I was also disrespected last month when there was discussion happening the entire time that I was giving my talk. You can go back and watch the video of it happening. And so I just wanted to also bring attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from residents in we'll to Zoom, Lower Moreland?
Before we do that, EJ, do we need to switch the Wi-Fi? Yeah.
That is working fine, I think. Let me switch. People are still gonna be on, let me just, I'm hoping there's no interruption. Right. Okay, now I can.
The
stop
stakes are
panicking.
remarkably high.
Okay. All right, so there's two people with their hands raised. Cavalli, I will ask you to unmute. And
He's not a Lower Moreland resident.
oh, okay. Should I?
Yeah, we can do Lower Moreland residents first.
Okay.
Ricky will get back to you.
Yes, Lori Cohen. Okay.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm Lori Cohen, 1057 Twin Silo Lane. And thank you for allowing us to take part in this. It's my first meeting that I've joined, so I'm happy to be here. This is the first time that I've heard about the ordinance from Ruth Housen, and it sounds like you don't really need any more people today to talk about how much they really want the ordinance at this point. And I have yet to hear one person give a cogent reason why we shouldn't pass this ordinance. So I'm really kind of very curious to hear about what those reasons are. But I just wanted to say, so I've been a resident here and my family for about 25 years. Before that, my husband lived in Lower Moreland. He went to all the Lower Moreland schools, graduated high school back in '82. And both of my children have gone through all of the schools here. So we are, as a group, we're pretty familiar with the area. So when my son graduated from the high school, his yearbook said bursting the bubble. That was the theme of the yearbook. And from what I understood, that sentiment was shared by a lot of people. That was what the yearbook committee decided to do. And that bubble, from what I understand, meant this very close community that is so close and so insular and so non-diverse, frankly, at the time, that all these kids wanted to get out, basically. Wanted to burst this bubble and see what real life was like, possibly in a more diverse situation. Over the past several years, I've gotten letters from Mr. Miles, the high school principal, and there have been incidents that have happened that have been related to race, that have been related to religion, or to other issues that have come up. Those things have happened. We're not immune to that. But over time, including years ago when my husband was in the high school, we have always, frankly, been a very, white district. Let's just say it straight out like that. There aren't a lot of people of color in the district. And that is, thank God, changing. So, and as one of the speakers had said, we are changing, it's becoming a more diverse community. So when do we finally say to our young people that it's time to change, that it's time to get into the 21st century already? It's been going on for a long time. It didn't just start recently. Is this, will this board finally be the one to break that bubble, to finally launch us into the next century and become the kind of community that more people will want to move into? Right now, I feel like one of the main reasons that people move into this community is because of the school district. That's always what I hear people saying. So let's make there be more reasons to move in, and let's have fewer of those letters that go out, because this committee can be the role model for our young people so that there are no more letters that have to go out about incidents related to race or religion or to gender or whatever that needs to be. Can we just be that committee? And I have yet to have heard anyone say any kind of a reason why you shouldn't pass this ordinance. I'd like to know exactly what is stopping us at this point. Thank you.
Any other Lower Moreland residents on Zoom that would like to say something?
I don't see any, oh. Is that chat?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Venkat Chakrabarthi, 3699 Copper Beach Circle, Huntington Valley, obviously. I think my wife spoke a little bit earlier today, and she kind of really wanted me to be there today. And I was really proud of her for speaking, but I feel like, you know, I think this is also my chance to kind of speak up for her. She always asks me to speak up, and I usually kind of pass and stay quiet. But I think this is a good forum to kind of speak up. I first of all want to thank all the people who've been making all these wonderful comments. I think everybody there did a great job speaking their mind. Honestly, to me, I don't really understand what the issue about this ordinance is. This is not like a Republican ordinance. This is not a Democratic ordinance. This is an American ordinance. This ordinance is simply to treat people fairly. That's it. I don't understand why people are getting angry about this one way or the other. This ordinance serves to do something very simple. Protect the people of this on a basic level from not being discriminated about by their race, their color, their skin tone, their ethnic background, their gender identity, their sexual orientation. It is a very, very basic, simple ordinance. There's nothing controversial about that. As citizens of this country, as citizens of this ordinance, citizens of this township, treating people fairly and not discriminating about them for these things, it's just a basic human right. I'm really just shocked and perplexed at how this ordinance has been kind of kicked down the can for so long. And it's something that, you know, we need to move forward on. I mean, we're all neighbors, we're all friends. I mean, if anybody up here has their child or loved one being discriminated against for whatever reason, they're too tall, they're too short, they're too big, they're too small, their skin color isn't right, their sexual orientation is right. We as a community should be protecting all of those people. That's not something that's controversial. I don't understand how you could just say, you know, this is not our job as this part of this township to protect the people of this township. How can we rely on the state or the federal government to take care of our neighbors if we as citizens of this township don't take care of ourselves? I mean, to me, that's just hurtful. I really just hope that everybody on the board hears what the people here have to say, because it's a lot like my wife said. This is a question of ourselves in 20 or 30 years. Are we on the right side of history or not? Because protecting the citizens of our township, that to me is a no-brainer. Thank you for your time.
Is that Mr. Ross?
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Howard Rovner. I live at 1165 Willard Road. I was not planning on speaking tonight. I was planning on listening, but all of the speakers, I think there was 15 of them, so I'm the 16th, and Rick, when he speaks, will be the 17th, have spoken up in favor of this ordinance. So that would be 17-0. But what I want to bring up is that I hope each of our 6 commissioners, 5 in person, 1 on Zoom, are actually listening to each of the comments and heard and digested what each person said. And I hope that each of the commissioners came into this meeting really with an open mind and not their minds made up before hearing from the residents. I think we've seen that in the past sometimes. So I hope tonight that each of the commissioners can really think about everything that has been said tonight. This is what we call a no-brainer. And for anyone who's experienced any discrimination for any reason, you know, once this ordinance passed, I think each of the speakers have been very courageous in speaking up. And my only point I wanted to make was, I hope the commissioners listened, heard, and came in here with an open mind and can vote in favor of passing this ordinance, which is what I call a no-brainer. Thank you.
Does that want hand from Moreland or something?
Ricky's from, a different town.
Okay. So then I'm gonna move on to anybody from anybody else who's not from Lower Moreland. As a courtesy, as a neighbor, I'll let you speak for a minute if you would like to.
Well, I guess since you've been so nice.
Just give your name and borough and all that good stuff.
Mary Jane ODHNER in Bernathen. It's just been great. It's really wonderful to see what we are surrounded by in Bernathen. I'm very excited. Again, thank you all for being here and doing this job and everyone here in this room. So I only want to just remind what I said. I've said it the other two meetings. It's just layers are good. And I talked about my children and snow and getting snow boots and having a pair of socks. Second pair of socks, it's really good, especially if it's full, and even a plastic bag if you want to keep them warm, right? So I basically wanted to say that. But I think we have layers everywhere. I actually, the last time I came, I had just been in a really bad automobile accident where I was T-boned. The car hit me so hard, I actually had flipped, landed with the passenger side down, and I was hanging in my seatbelt. So I didn't really feel myself as well last time. And I am recovered. Thank goodness, because of the car and all the layers, the way it was made, and it was dispersed. The impact, it was dispersed because of the way that car was made. And the seatbelt. And so I only had seatbelt injuries. My ribs and my arm across my back, just, but I've healed. But before that happened, there were other layers that happened. We get driver's license. We all take that test before we can drive. We all learn the rules of the road. We have police officers that help keep reinforcing that. But these are just these layers that we have just in our everyday life that we take for granted. And I'm really grateful, but sometimes people don't always follow the rules. And that's why, the guy went through the red light, and I know that we've all gone through that yellow light and he gunned it, and that's what happened. So I don't hate him or whatever, but when that happened, all those other things came in play, like the way my car was made, that seatbelt, because of regulations that were made to make that car really safe. My legs weren't crushed, because the top of the car was really strong, and that seatbelt. Keep going back to that. So there's all these layers that we have just in everyday life. So this is just another layer, and it sounds like what we've talked about, the mediator, it actually will save money. Because, I think somebody brought up, they were trying to make people think that, we'd have to pay for the lawyer that someone might want to use. And which is kind of silly, because it's like, why would you have to pay for someone else's lawyer when they could have gone to a free mediator? It actually gives you
In
what?
mediation would have to pay for a lawyer.
The person, like, say for instance, if they didn't want to go through mediation and they just wanted to fight it or whatever it was, is what I'm saying, is that the township wouldn't have to pay for it. You would actually have that as a buffer by saying, look, you could have gone to mediation. That's what I'm saying. In other words, someone was trying to imply that that would cost the township money. And I'm saying, I think it would have the opposite effect, because you're offering mediation. That's all. Anyway, layers are great. I mean, I was taking off layers and putting on layers. It's getting cold. So anyway.
Thank you.
That's all.
There's one, we can let them speak here.
Hello, should I speak now?
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Richard Buttacavoli. I live at 27 Lincoln Avenue in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. I come to you as the founder of the Montgomery County LGBT Business Council. We're Montgomery County's gay chamber of commerce, everybody. And the reason why I founded it was to promote the success and expansion of LGBTQ and allied plus owned businesses managed owned and managed businesses in Montgomery County, and to facilitate equal opportunities and workplace protections for LGBT workers and customers in Montgomery County, and advocate for and be the leading voice in local and county legislation promoting the interest and protections of LGBTQ plus owned operated businesses and workers and customers. Your brothers and sisters, the other municipalities around you have done this. And as somebody in a member of the gay community, it's uncomfortable for me here living in the North Penn area, where I actually live in a municipality that has passed protection. And then I have to drive through Taliesin, which hasn't done it yet. But I believe they're going to be introducing it soon. But I feel like, well, I'm driving through Taliesin and I'm not protected. I can't wait to get to North Wales where I can feel protected again, right? That makes me uncomfortable. The other thing I have to say is, you know, I've gone to lots of international conferences where we talk about this, and businesses such as Lockheed Martin, you know, Cisco, all these businesses have diversity and inclusion people on their teams. And one of the things they look at when they want to move into a municipality is to see if a municipality has protections in place for their customers and their employees. So this is a benefit for you all. And as well as entrepreneurs who want to open up shop and they're looking for places to go. You know, they're going to look for a community that has an ordinance in place, right? So that they can feel safe. As well as customers who want to shop and feel safe, you know, they are more likely to go to communities like Conshohocken, Abington, Ambler, Jenkintown, Doylestown. Look at all the municipalities. The Movement Advancement Project, which is where the equality maps are kept. All these towns are thriving towns with wonderful main streets. Isn't this what you want for your community? And so folks who pass these ordinances, businesses flock there, and so do. The other thing I want to say too about this is for the kids. Hey, we all know that kids are different. And we all know, you know, gentlemen and ladies, where we look at that kid and we say to our friend or your wife or your partner, oh, look at Mary's son. He's going to be different, isn't he? We all know that. We all know when we look at that kid, we think, wow, they have a burden on their shoulders, because we know those kids are more likely to be bullied. And LGBT people of color are twice as most likely to be bullied. And LGBT people who are colored and disabled are 2 and 3 times as likely to be bullied. This is good for business. This is good for your municipality. And folks, make history. If you go to the equality maps that are on lgbtmap.org, be part of this growing list of communities here in Pennsylvania and throughout the United States that pass this. You can actually make history. As a matter of fact, one of the things that my organization does is recognize through an ordination, a non-discrimination ordinance party. We actually throw parties that I think I did it about 5 years ago. We took 12 of the municipalities and threw parties and recognized those folks that got this done. So this is good for your community. And also, you know, when parents who are raising a child who might be LGBTQ and they are perhaps looking to move because they're outgrowing their household and they know that Lower Moreland, this is Lower Moreland or Upper Moreland? You know, that you have a non-discrimination ordinance passed, they're more likely to choose you and buy a home here. Just think what you could do for that kid who goes to school every day and the parent who's sending their kid off to school knows that their kid's feeling a little safer, right? So I implore you to make our kids feel safe. Make folks that want to work and live in your community safe. It's interesting, you know, I could live in Lansdale, but come into your township and get a job and no longer feel safe. But I have to go to work there every day. Make history, folks. You be part of history.
Thank you. Close all public comments now. Gonna open it back to the board. If anybody would like to make a motion, if there's a motion, we'll proceed from that point forward.
I make a motion to.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
So. I'm the elephant in the room, right?
What?
What? I said I'm the elephant in the room. I voted no to advertise it the first time, though. I'm the only one, unlike Judy, I'm not white privileged. She doesn't know my background. I did grow up since birth and go all through school in the Philadelphia public school system with every type of race, religion, and creed, okay? So to come up here and make comments like that, I find highly disrespectful, because you don't know us personally.
Wait, are you white?
Excuse me?
Are you white? Are you Caucasian?
Might want to look.
Are you Caucasian?
Yeah.
Then
I'm
how
not
do you
white
not have
privileged.
white privilege?
I'm not white privileged.
Yeah, time out. It's not a free for all. I'm the referee when it comes to this. It's not a free for all. Joe, you make your comment. And
I haven't heard one example where this ordinance from anyone who talked, anyone on Zoom, any letter read, where this would have to go in front of a mediator, not one. I haven't heard one example. It's not for bullying in schools. It's not for minors. It's not for kids within the hallways. It has nothing to do with that. Am I right, John?
correct.
This is simply a transaction.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
He's got the floor. Okay.
It's a transaction that has to take place within the township at a business. Somebody walks in and a business denies them a service. Excuse me. That's when it has effect. So I think there's misconception of what this ordinance actually is. No?
Maybe you need to read, maybe you need to read this thing.
Can we let him finish? I don't think anybody that stood up was interrupted. So no matter what he says.
In any neighboring township, there hasn't been one case that has come forward. They have all said this, 0 cases, right, Ruth?
Well, Cheltenham has had cases.
And so last meeting, there was no cases. There's zero facts on what the dollar amount is actually going to mean to the taxpayers. It's not free. There's no data to back it up. Where's your data?
Where's your data?
Where's the data?
Where's your data? Where's your proof that Clough Township now?
Guys, he really did give us respect. He did listen, he looked at people.
There was also a statement that someone wants to know why somebody would vote against this.
Yeah.
So let them do it without interrupting.
You guys want to have our opinion, and then the second we try to give it, just to give the thought process that we are going through, we get attacked by the entire room. So then you sit here and question why we
Your
don't.
community, not the room, by the way.
This is the room. This is exactly what I'm talking about. All right, you guys want us to be able to articulate why we're thinking and just questioning this ordinance, just thinking it through. And when we try to voice the things that we're trying to take into consideration, we get attacked. And then you say, well, why didn't you tell us, your thoughts on it? Well, that's why. Is it worth it to be attacked the second you try and just offer an opposing view? We represent the entire community, the people that are in favor of this ordinance. And we hear from a lot of people that are not in favor of it, that don't want to come, present their opinion. I know somebody else spoke about it earlier. They were scared to come up here because it's intimidating. Well, the same way, they don't want to come in here, give an opinion and get attacked by a room. So, folks, I'm just trying to explain to you what the process is and what we're trying to take into consideration. We are listening to everything that everyone here is saying. I promise you that. And just because we raise questions and want to look into things in a little bit deeper, that's our job. That is why we're up here, is to look at these issues as fully as we can. Sometimes looking at an issue fully and understanding it takes time and means that things have to be delayed so we can look into when we find out, the day of or the day before a vote, that it turns out the state may be covering the issue. And when we were told the reason we needed to pass this is because the state wasn't doing it. Well, now we're told the state is, so maybe we need to figure out what is going on. All right, so that is what we're trying to do, is go through the process. And we also, yes, we're taking everyone's point of view, whether we agree with it or not. We represent and have to listen to everyone. So if people want to attack me now, feel free.
As Chuck said, he read it 5 times. I probably read it 35 times, trying to get an understanding of it. Because I myself, like Chris said, the day before you look at something, you're going to vote or make a decision. You don't know exactly the terminology. I'm not a lawyer. When I ran, I didn't think I'd be getting into reading ordinances, terminology in certain language. So we lean on John and talk amongst each other. But when you don't have a lot of time to digest things and you don't really understand the full bill and what's written, and knowing that what happens in the school hallways, we shouldn't have anything to do with that. What happens with minors in the school district should take care of that. And that's where I get hundreds of emails, texts and phone calls saying, are my kids protected? That's where I had concern. My kids in the hallway getting bullied. Last week, I picked the phone up. I actually talked to the police department. I spoke to the vice principal and it was dealt with. That's how I dealt with the situation in school, bullying, my own daughter, right? That's what I was concerned about. And other folks in this community are concerned about when their kids have issues in school, or if their kid does something that their 15-year-old and now their life's ruined. Now college isn't going to look at them because they had to sit in front of media because they said something to somebody else. That's what we shouldn't have control of. That should be done in the school. That's what I thought this bill represented. This bill does not. This has nothing to do with bullying in school. Every letter read was about my kid got bullied, her cousin got bullied. There was not one instance.
The Lamb Funeral Home is not in the school. Wawa is not at the school.
Public comments over. Anything else for the board? Are you done?
If you're a Wawa and somebody says something racist to you, this bill does nothing. You can't lean on this bill for that. It's a transaction. She doesn't know that.
Yes, you do.
No, she doesn't. She's shocked. I can tell by her face.
Public comments over
I
now.
want to be called a racist.
Public comments over. Any other comments from the commission?
I have one last comment.
Yeah.
You came up here and made, great remarks. Your husband, that was your husband, correct? Absolutely beautiful, eloquent, and moving. That is those kind of comments are incredibly impactful. People just come up here and attack us and yell at us just for future reference. It doesn't help your cause. But the people that gave honest, just heartfelt, their beliefs and why they think it's good, they're incredibly moving. I appreciate everyone that came up and had the courage to speak. So thank you to those people.
Any other comments from the board before?
Last but not least, I want to reiterate that I presented this because I thought it was the best thing for the township, not to expose or cause anyone to be called a racist. I don't believe that. Okay? I think, you're all intelligent human beings. You know, trying to do what's best for this township, and we do appreciate that. We're just asking you to pass.
Well, I don't know if we'll get a second, but I would like to make a motion to pass ordinance number 763. Would anyone like to second that?
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded to approve the ordinance as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you. Take a 5-minute recess.
No one is leaving till we're done the traffic stuff.
Wait a minute.
Together now.
Take a 5-minute recess to allow anybody who doesn't want to do any of this stuff. We're gonna start off for those who want to stay for the boring stuff now.
Exciting stuff.
What we do.
Okay, Commissioner. You can continue. Thank you.
All right. The next item is review traffic ordinance recommendations. So there are 3 recommendations. I'm gonna go through them just briefly and then allow the people that have more information on them to go into further explanation. The first one will be Chestnut Street area parking. There's a shared access driveway which runs between Chestnut Street and Belmont Avenue behind Tin Pan Alley, Auto Spa Express, and House of Produce and a Sunoco. The owners of the car wash and the bar are in a dispute over the area being parked upon, and they're at the Auto Express is requesting a no parking area for a portion of that alley. The second one will be Inverness and Welsh Road, and that is an issue as to whether or not to put up a no left turn sign from Inverness onto Welsh. And then the third topic is Byberry Road hill speed limit. PennDOT has established a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on Byberry Road between Pine Road and Philmont Avenue. So this is whether or not we want to start enforcing the 25-mile-per-hour.
Correct. That's already in the ordinance and health regulations, but just additional signage would assist the police department. So just wanted to, before we made kind of that functional change, wanted to make sure everybody was aware, because I'd imagine we'll be able to pull some people over often, and then we won't hear about it.
So the first will be Chestnut Street area parking. Chief Scarrato, is that you?
Yes, so Chestnut Street area parking was complaints that we received related to the car wash and Tin Pan Alley.
You got it.
You got it. And we've received complaints. There were multiple instances where vehicles were left parked from the previous night and the bar closure, which impacted the ability of the car wash to get vehicles in and out. So we've had various issues over the last bunch of months, and they requested the change. The township owns the property where it could be, the owner, the business owner owns the property where this area could be posted. So the recommendation from traffic safety unit is to make that thoroughfare safe, is to have no parking along that grassy area.
And John can point you to kind of some statutory authorization.
Yeah, there's some PennDOT regulations in the statute which permits a private property owner. This is mainly a sort of a paper street alley on private property. The township owns the property beyond it. But for a private property owner to request that the property be posted for no parking, or like a fire lane, like shopping centers do this all the time. Shopping centers, all private property, but you'll see it gets posted for no parking or fire lane. And as long as we get a written request, which we had now, the car wash owner, then the township can post it.
Okay. Next is Inverness and Welsh Road is.
You want me to continue?
Yeah, this would be a great time for you to have the conversation. Chief.
Okay, we received a complaint regarding left turns out of Inverness Road onto Welsh Road. After evaluating that complaint, our traffic safety unit went up and did a traffic study at Inverness and Welsh Road. For the length of my career and much longer, and I've been here 30 years, there is a large wall that blocks the view turn to look right and observe traffic coming down out of Havington, passing Inverness. And it makes it very dangerous to go out of there. When they did the site distances, they found that a required, that based on the speed and the amount of traffic, it should have a 425-foot site distance, which would be necessary. And unfortunately, with the wall, it's only 208. Get my glasses. 203. 203 feet, 0.9 feet provided. So we received many similar complaints to this. In most cases, Steve would be able to verify we're able to instruct the resident to cut back trees, bushes, Woodward Lane is an example on Mr. Odner's board, coming out onto Buck Road, where there's large bush sections that have been cut back over the years. Unfortunately, in this instance, it's a wall. So there's no way to force the resident to tear down this long-standing existing wall. So the traffic safety unit is recommending that it be posted no left turns to ensure there's no serious crashes there. There is a study that's been done over the period. There's only one specific crash that was identified. However, it definitely well fails the site distance recommendations for a road of that type. So that's their second recommendation.
And can you also speak to, and maybe I missed this, but the traffic safety unit polling all of the residents who are affected by this? Because we wanted to be very sensitive.
I'm on page 2. Also, so there are 16 homes plus the homeowner who filed the complaint in that area that affects this that is affected by this left turn. 15 of the 17 raised no objection to preventing left turn. 2 of the owners on Deer Path were opposed to it. So there will be at least 2 unhappy residents if we go forward with posting this. The left turn, if it is prohibited, residents from Inverness and Deer Path could only make the turn by accessing Lincoln Drive or Jefferson Lane, both which connect Inverness to Welsh Road at a much safer location to make that turn. So that's the recommendation of the unit.
I want to thank you for doing that polling. My
Yes.
people really appreciated that you asked them their opinions.
We understand that people have ways they like to travel. They develop habits and they don't like being forced to go around and take extra time out of their time, but sometimes it's for the best. The last item was the Byberry Road Hill section, which is from Philmont Avenue to Pine Road. I've been here 30 years. It's always been 25 miles an hour. However, in order for us to appropriately and effectively enforce the law there are certain requirements of signage being posted every certain amount of distance. There also has to be reduced speed limit ahead signs posted. And that's what the traffic safety unit is asking for, so that we enforce the road as it is designed there. I can tell you early in my career, I handled a fatal crash on that stretch of road where a person, went off the side of the road, hit a tree there. We've had more than one fatal there in my 30 years here. So I don't think it's an unwise thing to have it properly posted so we can enforce it. So I know of at least 2 fatal crashes in that stretch of the road.
Thank you, Chief. All right, so for Chestnut Street and Inverness, those have to be by motion after we consider them?
Correct. So if both recommendations were to be accepted, the motion would be to advertise an ordinance following each of those recommendations.
So first, regarding Chestnut Street, any comment from the board or questions? Any comments or questions from the public? Are we inclined as a board to pass it? All right, I'll make a motion then to advertise an ordinance restricting or limiting parking on Chestnut Street.
So really, it's on the access drive on the
yeah.
east side, and it would be for the kind of the property width of the car wash.
Second.
There's been motion to second to advertise as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Then regarding the left turn from off of Inverness onto Welsh, any comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I will make a motion to advertise no left turn from Inverness onto Welsh Road.
Second.
It's been motioned to second to advertise the ordinance as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, and finally, Byberry Road. Any questions or comments from the board on that?
Additional signage will be great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
agreed.
Any questions or comments from the public? All right, so we do not need a motion on that one, correct? So
We'll install the signage.
we'll solve the signage. There we go.
And just an FYI, I forgot which night it was, but I was coming home. Yes, it was anywhere between as late as 9 and 11. And our officers were pulling over speeders on Byberry. So it was really good to see. I mean, I know they're always out there, so thank you.
Okay, next is review zoning hearing board agenda and decisions. The zoning board had one application for their November meeting. Application number 22-17, the application of Leo George of 34 Morgan Run, who seeks variances to allow a reduction in the required 25-foot rear yard setback, a reduction of the 10-foot minimum and 30-foot aggregate side yard setbacks, and to exceed the lot coverage ratio of 40% to allow construction of a partially covered deck. There was one decision from the October hearing. Application number 22-16 was the application of Edward Song and Catherine Lowe of 3884 Jeffrey Road, who sought a variance to allow an increase in the maximum square footage for an in-law suite. The variance was granted with emphasis added to statute 208-804 subsection F13, which requires the owner to deed restrict use of the in-law suite. And then finally, my liaison position is the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust. We have nothing new there. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Odner. Now for Internal Affairs Committee. Under item E, review and consider minutes of October 11th, 2022. Any of the commissioners have any comments or possible corrections? And hearing none, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of October 11th, 2022.
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded to approve the minutes of October 11th, 2022. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item F, review and consider November 2022 bill list. Any of the commissioners have any comments on the bill list for November 2022?
You did an excellent job on your summary again. Thank you.
Any questions from the public for the public screens on the website? Okay, hearing none, then I'd like to make a motion to approve the November 2022 bill list as described.
Second.
It's been motioned and second to approve the November 2022 bill list. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item G, review and consider proposed 2023 Lower Moreland Township budget. Manager Hoffman, would you like to give the executive version to the board and to the public?
Yes, I can do that, and the tone of that gives, I feel pressure about it. How I can do this in a consolidated way. So
Everyone left.
I can tell. So
Not every.
there are 3 specific items for the board's consideration tonight. The first will be to authorize advertising the tax levy ordinance. That will be done by a motion. The second is to authorize another ordinance for advertising, which is the sewer rates for 2023. And I'll provide some context as to why that's coming back after we haven't had to do that ordinance for a little while. And then the third item is a resolution, which will be number 22-38, which adopts the overall 2023 budget. So there are, I guess, 2 specific items that I want to call out from the budget that will result in millage increases for specific funds. So in my memo, I break out the different, and there's 7 of them, millages that the township has for specific purposes. And when we review the budget, all of those funds are done kind of within the context of their existing revenue sources. We're not kind of pulling from one area to help offset another. Everything is done kind of in that direct manner. So the first millage that is being recommended for an increase is the fire tax fund. And this is the culmination of the discussion of, gosh, probably more than the last year of trying to work on the future plan for the provision of fire services while understanding that we are served by Huntington Valley and their capable volunteers. We want to kind of be prepared for what is next and understanding that just providing any emergency service with volunteers is not a great long-term plan. So this millage increase will specifically address the component where at an upcoming meeting, we'll be presenting to the board, memorializing a formal relationship between Lower Moreland Township and Bernathen Borough, that we are going to take on this provision of fire services together. And that the first step to do that will be jointly hiring a chief of emergency services. And we'll distribute a job description that will go with that. We'll detail what all of the hiring process will look like and then what that person will do on behalf of each municipality. But as of today, that fund is designed to make contributions to Huntington Valley for their operations, to Huntington Valley for the SHIP program that is objectively working and providing an effective daytime response for fire calls. And then also continuing to provide 50% of the request from Bernathen Fire Company with a $32,000 contribution towards their fire operations. So in order to continue those things, I'll hire this new position, and all of the details specifically for that new position do need to be worked out with Bernathen. But I can comfortably recommend that an increase in that millage from 0.31 to 0.49 mils, which is an average of $37.80 per year for the average tax-paying home in Lower Moreland, that we would be able to meet all of those obligations with that fund. So are there any questions on what is being done on the fire side? The next one is the library fund, and this is on a much smaller scale, but we had lots of conversation with their director, Pam Dull, about her 5-year financial plan. The library and their board has made the decision that they're going to spend between 3 and 5% of its kind of like savings Vanguard operating fund to help offset some of the cost increases that they experience. But as we look at that plan, the current contribution of $483,000, which is primarily to cover the staffing expenses that the library has, that has not been changed since 2016. So in order to comfortably fit within that 5-year plan while still asking the library to be very mindful of the way that it prepares expenses, we're recommending a small increase to the library millage to be able to make an annual contribution of $510,000 instead. And that would take the current millage from 0.455 to 0.477. And that would be an average of $4.62 more per year. So are there any questions on the recommendation for the library? Then just to provide a more kind of general summary, and I guess our main operating fund is the general fund. We're projecting to finish 2022. Every year, the budget that gets adopted for a given year is adopted with a pretty substantial deficit. And we're able to balance that by showing utilization of cash on hand. However, the budget's prepared in a very conservative way where there's several opportunities built in where certain revenues can do better, certain expenses if we're able to control, that it's actually possible for the deficit that is approved to actually yield a surplus at the end of the year. And 2022 will be the 4th consecutive year of thankfully being able to accomplish that. So there's no increase that is necessary for the 2023 general fund, which is the largest individual millage that the board collects. My memo does highlight just some of the kind of expenses that we project to increase from 2022 to 2023. Things that include contractual expenses, as many of our employees are members of one of 3 union groups, the largest of which is the VBA, so for our police department. And then I guess 3 specific things that I wanted to call out from that is that IT services will have a greater expense in 2023. We've been leveraging a low-cost option through one of our insurance companies for several years. That is no longer able to continue because of the challenges of cybersecurity and the role that those employees will be playing on behalf of the entirety of the insurance trust. So for the first time in several years, we have to go out to get proposals for third-party IT services. And doing that in that way is just frustratingly an expensive endeavor. And then as everybody is experiencing, the township's gas and diesel expenses I tried to prepare for a higher year in 2022, but I don't think there was any way to project what had actually happened. Just come to, I guess, what we'll see in overage for 2022, and then trying to prepare for an even more worst case scenario in 2023. Significant new expense assigned to that. And then the last one is salt for the winter. So thankfully, we'll go into 2023 with a full salt shed. But the cost on a per ton basis increased by over $20. We're up to $71.60 per ton in a relatively standard winter between what it takes to brine roads in advance of a storm and what it takes to get through. Even if it's just kind of several frustrated smaller storms, we can use up to 1,000 tons per year. So the budget is prepared considering 1,000 tons at $71.60. Hopefully, that's not how the winter actually plays out. And that'll maybe an opportunity within that budget in a way to pare down on that deficit that is projected. All of the other governmental based funds are within the 5-year projections that we do. I'm comfortable recommending the existing funding levels. So that covers kind of all of the township's government-based operations. We'll now have 3 business type funds compared to the 2 that we currently have. So the third new additional one is the stormwater fund, which will be created to manage the new $70 per quarter stormwater bill that will be rolled into the existing sewer bill that is already paid. So if you pay a sewer bill today for sanitary sewage, your bill starting in 2023 will be no different. It's just how we are breaking up the base rate of that bill, which I think is $158 for a residential bill. $70 of that $158 will now go towards the stormwater application, leaving the balance for the sewer fund. So that's why we have the ordinance this year for the sewer rates, is that the sewer ordinance itself will reduce the overall rate that is being paid. But again, we do not want there to be any expectation that that is actually going to reduce the bill that is going to be paid. It is instead going to be shifted so that we'll create this stormwater fund, which will give the township substantial flexibility to implement the obligations that we have under our stormwater permit from the state. The third business type fund is our trash fund. We'll be entering the 3rd year of our collection contract with Republic. So Steve, EJ, and I will be having conversations probably first thing starting the year as to what we'd recommend with the end of that contract. It's possible that we would be looking at taking the 2 option years, which do show an increase in cost from what we're currently paying. But with what we understand from that private market right now, we're very concerned about potentially going out to bid and what the pricing might yield. So we'll have recommendations for the board relatively early next year. So all of that said within the budget message, the tax levy ordinance, and that authorizes all of the spending that is in the budget. There are 2 increases, which total a 3.9% increase on our millage, which would be an average of $42.42 for the average assessed home in Moreland. Then the second is the sewer rate ordinance, which is actually going to drop all of the base rates by $70. But again, that $70 is going to become the stormwater fee. And then finally, resolution number 22-38, which adopts all of the numbers that back up all of the words that I just said as your 2023 budget. That's budget message for next year.
Great executive summary compared to something that is what, 50 pages long.
Yeah.
So any commissioners want to make comments about the proposed ordinance and
But you'd want to give the average bill now versus the average bill. You told the bill it's like
It's an extra $42.
and $4 for the library and the rest is for the fire company.
So the average bill for 2022 is $1,077. So the proposed new bill will go to $1,119.
Okay.
And that's about 10% of the overall real estate tax that any resident pays. Where 80% goes to the school district and a little bit less than 10 goes to Montgomery County.
Right.
so I will comment that the good fiscal management of the manager and the staff has led to no increase in the general fund. So congratulations on that. Any other comments from the board before we open up the public comment?
First, you did a great job, you and your team. I know you did a lot of work, and I've seen the back and forthness and all the numbers and crunching, and then yielding a surplus. It's going to be nice. So good job. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, it looks like no public comment, then I will make the motions to authorize the tax levy ordinance for advertising.
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded to authorize the tax levy ordinance as described for advertising. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the sewer rate ordinance for advertising.
Second.
It has been motioned and second to authorize the sewer rate ordinance for advertising as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. And last is to consider resolution 22-38, adopting the 2023 budget as described. I'd like to make a motion.
Second.
The motion and second to adopt resolution number 22-38 for the 2023 budget. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item H, review and consider ADH bank account. EJ, Assistant Manager, would you like to tackle that and why we need to go that route?
Sure. So as part of the implementation of some of the language in the new contract for the unions and the Teamsters in the township. One of the changes is a health insurance change going from an HMO plan to a high deductible PPO plan with the health savings and reimbursement account. The company that manages the reimbursement account hires a bank account with ACH capabilities where they debit the amount that is reimbursable for the employee for their expenses related to health care that are eligible up to the amount that is authorized in the contract. The township has one main bank account where most of the operations is handled under. These are ACHs that will be happening more regularly, and that one of them that we wanted taking place in our main operating account. So we wanted to set up a separate one where those transactions can be monitored separately, not affecting our main operations. This is just an ACH account. No checks will be written there. Only the amount that is authorized in the contract will be transferred at the beginning of the year, and then not really any more transactions from there on. So this really shouldn't change anything. It's just mainly to be able to have that account for the employees.
So smoother and safer? Is
Yeah.
that about how you would sum it up? Smoother and safer.
Correct.
Great. Any questions from the commissioners about this process?
Will it be linked to our account or?
It will be linked to our account, but it will be separate. We will have a separate account number. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions from the public? Hearing none, then I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 22-39, authorizing the township manager and the assistant managers as signers for a third TD Bank account tied to ACH account.
Second.
With the motion and seconded to approve resolution number 22-39 as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item I, review and consider fire alarm quote. Okay, who can I phone up?
I'll take it. So, this is to, I guess, close a pretty significant gap of the township building. Everybody close their ears, not currently having a working fire alarm. So relying on either the eyes of current employees in the building or the fact that the firehouse is next door. But we figure that's not a great long-term plan. So we had included this in the 2022 capital budget. So Bob Shawley was very diligent in getting 3 quotes, especially because we were going to be right around that bidding limit. But thankfully, both, well, that's the low quote that we have that is also available through CoStars. So no additional public bidding is necessary. So that would be to use ADT commercial with a purchase price of $23,750.
Great. I think that's something that's very important. Does any of the board have any questions? Any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fire alarm system purchase from ADT Commercial for the sum of $23,750.
Second.
Is motion and second to approve the fire alarm purchase as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item J, Great. Report Manager Hoffman, do you have any additional things for the public?
So I guess just two things that I wanted to call out. The first are that just a number of the strategic items that we've been working on throughout 2022, many of them will carry over into 2023. And so items like we talked about, like the future provision of fire services, the review of all of our existing facilities, and trying to come up with plans for dealing with some of the cost implications for all of the things that we own, knowing that a lot of those are upcoming. So we'll have a lot more to report to the board as we get into 2023. The other item that I wanted to get ahead of, even in advance of Bob Shaddy's code enforcement report, based off of Mr. DeGeorge's calling in about work at the Westrum site being done it was before permitted hours. We cited the individual who was doing the specific work, and there is no hearing scheduled for district court because they pled guilty. So the district judge applied a fine within what the ordinance provides, $300, and that was paid. We will get the $150 or so out of that $300.
Doesn't sound satisfying though.
I intend to deliver $150 to Mr. DeGeorge.
And it's just for both the violations. There was one that was in question, I had called twice, and someone was going to check on it.
Yes, so the first one that was referred to, the police report for that, we did not think was going to be able to pass muster with the district judge. So we focused on the one that was most definitive person caught in the act. By the time the officers responded to the other one, they had discontinued.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't sound right, but it's a long time now, it's passed. All right, well, thanks for your attention on that.
We got one.
Well, now they know we're serious.
Anything else, Manager Hoffman?
No, I shall not speak anymore.
Okay, Assistant Manager Lee, any additional comments for the board and public?
Really, the past month and upcoming month are focused more on internal operational needs, trying to implement the changes in the contracts for the unions and the Teamsters for the new year, and getting a third-party IT services consultant on board by January 1st. Otherwise, we will not do Zoom anymore. I'm talking about that last part.
Okay, any questions for the Assistant Manager? Okay. Under item K, tax collector's report, we do have our elected tax collector on the Zoom call with us. Ms. Sale, do you have any comments for the tax collector's report?
Just very briefly, there were no collections this month for October. We did send out reminder letters dated November the 2nd, reminding folks that they have till December 31st to pay township and county taxes. And I'm waiting now for the phone calls to pass and the payments to come in. So we still stand at the face collected at 97.24% and the actual collection at 95.62%.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board for the tax collector? Any questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to request that the tax collector's report be accepted as submitted.
Thank you.
Ms. Sale. Under item L, my liaison's report, I continue to attend the school board directors meeting virtually. And we do have a civil service commission meeting scheduled for next week, I believe. If I'm attending that, I will report at the next board meeting on the activities of the Civil Service Commission. That completes internal affairs. The chair on now recognizes Commissioner Kurtz, Chair of the Community Development Committee.
Thank you, Chairman. The first item on my agenda is review and consider escrow release. It's Westrum, 25 Avenue, number 1903. So we're on receipt of a letter and work that was completed from Tim Woodrow, and based on the continued progress for the site work at the Western Development site. Tim's letter attached is recommending escrow release number 5. So I'll tell you what work they did here. sidewalks,
roof drains,
and some drains,
and some guide rail,
and some stormwater.
and our oil and grease separator.
Yes, well, right, and a wooden guide rail. So that's what this release covers. The total escrow for this project is $1,389,506.29. Prior releases have been authorized totaling $733,089.85. So this escrow release number 5 is for $73,482, which will leave a balance of $582,934.44. So that's what's in front of us. Does any of the board have any questions or Tim?
No.
Okay, anyone from the public?
Tim, I just have a quick question. Was any money withheld on this escrow release?
Yes,
What was the total cost?
so we've got, Chuck, in the escrow, we've got, as we said before, a little over $580,000 to your point, there is a piece of storm pipe that is obligated to go in. It's not in yet. But I understand that Brian Blair's company is back on the site. They will be the contractor who will be installing that pipe. And so that should be in the next couple of weeks and clean that all up.
So will they be asking for another escrow release in the next couple of weeks?
No. They typically do these when, milestones are reached.
Well, I always thought it was when a project was complete, that we release our escrow to that project.
Yeah, and the way the account is set up is that we have a spreadsheet with various line items that define work that's obligated under the approved plan. And as those things are completed, then money is released, meant to assure that the things are installed. There is a contingency line item, it's 10% of the total value of the escrow. And so in that contingency line item, we're holding like $130,000 for anything that would come up that was not anticipated in the design plans or in work that took place. So I feel we're in pretty good shape. And I have been talking to Western about getting its stuff cleaned up. The board should know that the PennDOT work, the widening and that culvert extension that's part of the PennDOT permit is due to start now. There was some complications in the design of that culvert extension. That's all been worked out. So that is coming along as we speak. They have promised me that my trail and lights and landscaping along Philmont Avenue is all part of that PennDOT work and should be done shortly as well.
Do we have any time of completion on this project?
Well, I guess, the development agreements talk for, roll annually. I know that Burke's Ridge is due to turn the project over to Westrum, I think the first of the year. I'm not sure that all the PennDOT work will be done by the first of the year. Obviously, we're in a bad time now to finish pave and take care of that kind of thing. But I know that Westrum has a period of time that they need to set the building up for occupancy, before, after Burke's Ridge turns the building over to Westrum, Westrum's got to get their people set up, furnishings, install IT systems, beds, couches, whatever, need to go in. So there is that period of time that will take place before the facility opens for occupancy.
Right, so that's when the sales trailer will be in operation the first of the year.
I'm not sure I have that answer.
It's possible that the sales trailer may be there sooner, because once
it's on location.
Yeah.
Right, so Bob, there's a condition in the zoning relief for the sales trailer or the leasing trailer as to when that goes away, which I think coincides with occupancy being issued for the building. At that point, they can do all the leasing activities from inside the building rather than an exterior trailer.
It has to be approved.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
I have a question for Tim on the same subject. How about the?
can you please, Mr. McDade, can you please state your name and address, excuse me, one moment. For just for the record, we know where you live, but, well, we need you to say that, and then we can go to you, Mr.
Kentucky page 2472 Dale Road.
Thank you so much.
Just along the same lines of completions or lines, line items, how's it stand for, the privacy fencing? And all the vegetation that needs to be.
Yeah,
installed
so
and planted.
that's the vast majority of what's left in the escrow account. Market is that landscaping, the fencing is still in there. What I have learned from Berks Ridge, fencing is the obligation of Western as opposed to the Berks Ridge contract. So I think as that turns over, we'll see all about finished work take place.
Okay.
Mr. DeGeorge, can we just have your address all top for the record?
Address?
Yes, please.
414 Dale Road.
Thank you so much.
I have a question, Tim, what you just said. So how does that affect, the changing in the responsibility? How does that affect the escrow? Not at all?
Not at all. So it's not the obligation. Well, the escrow protects the project, not necessarily the contract.
Got it. Okay.
Does anyone else from the board have any other questions? If not, I'll make a motion to approve an escrow release in the amount of $73,482.
Second.
It's been motioned and second to approve the escrow release as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Next item on my agenda is the building officials report. There were 74 permits issued for October, 63 residential, 11 commercial, 4 residential certificates of occupancy, 3 business UNOs, and 16 construction UNOs. There were 120 inspections by type, 102 residential, 18 commercial. Bob had 55 complaint violation, and he either tries to solve or resolve the problem, sends a notice, and he also gives us a list of the days that the resident or business should comply. And a lot of follow-up, a lot of phone calls, and a lot of going out, more than 55 that is on this list. So we thank you, Bob Shattuck. Does anyone have any questions for anything, any items in your ward? Anyone in the public? Anyone on Zoom? Forgot to ask that. Oh, that's cool. Thank you. If not, I'll accept the building officials report as submitted. The next item is my liaison report. So basically, October was packed. My liaison committees or the community events, the planning commission, and the Moreland Township School District DEI committee. October was filled with a lot of fall events. First, we had the Township Open House, which was a big hit. Once again, we had pumpkin decorating and the kids really loved it. It's in coordination with the Huntington Valley Library. The Huntington Valley Fire Company. We thank the fire company for always letting us join in on that amazing day. Next was the trunk or treat drive-through at the Public Works Department. That was also a big success this year. I just can't say enough about it. It was a great time, and we thank the residents that drove through, and special thanks to everyone that participated, all the township organizations, and also the organizations in Brenathan, and special thanks to our Public Works Department, who really works tirelessly to really put that event together for us. It was just a great night. And also all of our residents who join in and volunteer, as well as our commissioners with community events. And I thank everyone for their support. We did have a movie night, which the library ran. I'll let Commissioner Canale comment on that, because that falls under his liaison. And we had the fall Halloween home tour. So that was really nice, a map that you can go and tour either fall or Halloween decorated homes. And we had about almost 24 of those. And all our events are posted on Facebook. If anyone wants pictures, photos, and see the great time that goes on. As a triple final, myself and Leah are trying to coordinate and schedule a workshop, environmental workshop Because of the fall and the holidays coming up, it's been a little difficult. Might not be able to get them on the schedule until January. So next, the Lower Moreland Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Committee. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend in October. I came down with the flu after getting my flu shot. So I'm looking forward to the November meeting, which is supposed to be November 21st, Monday, November 21st. And that will be my first meeting, so I'm looking forward to that. And if anyone has any questions for me?
I have a question. Are the Halloween winners announced? Or are you still judges still deciding?
This year, it actually wasn't a contest. Neither was last year. The prior year before that was because there was no other Halloween.
Right.
Most people who submitted, they submitted their pictures, which we posted on Facebook. We showed them to the map.
But you didn't judge them per se?
No, it wasn't advertised that way either.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Well, maybe we'll send a letter thanking them
Yes.
for their participation. So that would.
Give them the 150 from Mr. DeGeorge.
So with that being said, is there any other questions from the public? If not, and just finally, we did have a food collection drive at the trunk or treat. How did that go, Chief? I wanted to ask you.
Went very well. We have a ton of stuff down in our police station, but we're also still doing collecting in the lobby of the police station. So if anyone still has things.
For a second food drive.
Correct, that'll all be given to the county and Philip on.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That
You
can,
could repost that on Facebook, that would be
Yeah, I'll have them post it again.
great. That concludes my agenda items for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Kurtz. The chair now recognizes Commissioner Housing, Chair of the Public Property Committee.
I actually have no report this month. The LMPA has not met and the Building Code Board of Appeals never seems to meet.
No one's appealing.
No one's appealing. I have a lot of appealing people, but anyways. And there's nothing to report on the Public Property Committee either, so.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
quick.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Housing. The chair now recognizes Commissioner Pace, Chair of the Public Works Committee.
First item is Q, Public Works Department. For Steve here, I know he's working hard on that, sucking the leaves up.
Yep, we've already picked up about a little over 1,500 yards of leaves. The next 2-3 weeks is probably the heaviest. We'll tell you, we still only have one seasonal leaf guy. Just had a hard time hiring people, so we started this week that my guys are working 9-10 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then Fridays we'll work a regular day, but just so we can stay on schedule. The Red Line Road sidewalk, you know, you guys all, you went into this years ago about connecting all these sidewalks. I'm kind of person that's, you know, who's gonna use them. I gotta tell you, every time we've been on Red Line Road sidewalk, Tim and EJ, while it was being done, before it was being done, there's kids walking in Red Line Road. I couldn't believe it, that people actually were walking there. Mostly it was kids, so now that that's done, it was a great project that, you know, you guys took on with the developer of High Road, I know. So 4 or 5 kids every time we're there, and they were walking the street. So it's that turned out to be a really good project you guys did. You might have noticed our intersections, our contractor Armor has been out. We did the pole spots. We decided where we're gonna put the new traffic boxes, Moreland, well, and Huntington Pike, Chestnut Street, and then Dock Road. So those guys are out there. Working there, you'll see them out there. Just some e-waste reminder. Right now, we're pretty open. You know, you call, you come, make your appointment, you drop off. That remind everyone is that, you know, everyone know, no hazardous waste, no gas, no paint, you know, no dehumidifiers, no appliances. We occasionally find stuff out in that pile that doesn't belong. So if you guys can just pass that on to anyone. Denise mentioned that all the community events, which we love to participate in, and we're working with HVA for the dugouts at Lower Moreland Park. We have 4 of the pads poured, so I'm going to contact Mike Shem, the one that's leading it for HVA, because their contractor should be able to come in within the next week or two and start that. And we have the bid out for the fence and the backstop, which hopefully you guys approve at the December. That's about it.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Steve, you did, the trees also.
I have the trees coming in next week that we will get up. We'll spread out through a couple different boards.
I mean, the trees in back of the pickleball and the tennis.
The block of ladies came in and were planted at the back to finish off the pickleball project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next items R and S, I'm gonna lump together. My liaison position refers to section R, which was application 22-08, the application of Reverend and Mrs. Kenneth Alden, 2448 Ariston Avenue, Huntington Valley, PA, who seek permission to alter portions of their dwelling by removing all the siding and old clapboard siding beneath it, properly flashed and replaced with similar white vinyl siding. It is also intended that all windows will be replaced leakage. There's some gables there that Bob Shattuck, if you could just make a quick comment or reference to them.
Yeah, it was, the board did recommend the condition, and that is that there's 2 gable windows on the 3rd floor, and that those windows be preserved. I haven't been concerned about that, just simply that it's going to cost, I think, the homeowner an excessive amount of money to preserve those windows. He's already making major improvement to the building by changing out all of the existing windows. So I would recommend that that condition not be part of the certificate.
Any questions from the board?
So just a question. So the Harb recommended it?
Our board recommended that the gable windows be preserved.
Are they wood or?
They're wood.
And your
Preservation of a wooden window is.
So this would be similar to the windows that were replaced at the house across the street from the township building, that despite the Harb's desire for them to be preserved, that financially and function wise, it just was not something that staff could recommend that the board impose on the application.
Understood, thank you.
They approved everything else within the application.
But the recommendation to us is to hold that up, against, to enforce that, is that correct?
I believe that the board might consider that the 3rd floor gable windows not have to be preserved.
Bob, in the report, it mentioned that some of these windows are leaking. So do we know, I mean, if they're that old and switching them out to no windows?
There's about 30 windows on this house. The house was built at some point in the 20s.
Wow.
All of the windows had already been replaced once. This is a second window replacement, simply because of the age of the home. And quite a few of them leak. So it's more of a necessity. The property itself is in the residential district of the wards right down the street from their home. And it's not like the homes that we have on quite. There's not that many people walking up and down here. So that's
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Alden today. Oh, he didn't mention the other part. He just told me it was United. Is he under the impression that we will change this, or is he not?
I think he's willing to accept it, but he would more prefer that the money that is expended for the preservation of the windows be put towards some other improvement on the home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Any questions from the public? Zoom? All right, so I'll make a motion to accept the application as is and give the owner the option to change the gables based on Bob's recommendation of the financial burden it's called, to change it, not preserve them and change the gables to vinyl.
One more question, Bob, do we have to vote, Chris, on adding the extra window here? Because I think that's a good idea. In the front.
Did that come before the mark?
Was that
in front of the heart?
It's somewhere in the report here.
That was all of the windows.
They're replacing all the windows.
Okay, so then that will include that extra one in the
Yes.
front, okay.
All the
Thank you.
windows and the two gables be changed to vinyl rather than preserved.
It's to Denise's point, there's a window that they're proposing to add that is not there today. So the HARB did review that and is okay with that.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
It's been motioned to and seconded to approve the recommendations stated by Commissioner Pace. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
That concludes my agenda.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Pace. The chair now recognizes Commissioner Canal, the chair of the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Dr. SIRKEN. I apologize for all the coughing. I'm a little bit under the weather. Chief Sabato, please start us off.
For the police department report from October, I'll just go through a few of the crime issues that we've been dealing with, reminding our residents to be aware of if they see something, we want them to say something, call 911. You see people near businesses at night, people near homes at night. We've had a series of burglaries in the last few weeks. We had a disturbance on Huntington Pike and Philmont back in October 11th, which was a report of a firearm displayed during a road rage incident. We had arrests involving firearms this month. We had 4 thefts from autos on Warfield and Peyton Drive. We had 3 residential burglaries in the month of October. And last week we had 3 businesses burglarized along Huntington Pike. So our detectives collected a lot of evidence. We're optimistic that we'll get leads off of that, but we want people to call if they see people near businesses or homes in the middle of the night. That's important for us. We had an arrest on Huntington Pike on the 26th of October, where 2 adult females were arrested for theft from a motor vehicle, receiving stolen property, loitering and prowling at nighttime, disorderly conduct, and one was charged with possession of a prohibited offensive weapon. So that's really the crime stuff. Only 5 DUIs last month, which is very good for us. It's hopefully people are getting the message. The firearms violation was at Huntington Pike and Tomlinson Road. 9mm firearm seized during a hit and run investigation. Charges are pending. 2 warrant arrests from outside of our jurisdiction. 1 out of Philadelphia by the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office, where we made an arrest. Second one was also out of Philadelphia, an adult female arrested for hidden apprehension of a fugitive and forged and counterfeit documents. So it's really the crime stuff. I'll try to be as passionate as the manager about his budget as I talk about some of our updates. Last month, we did solve a motor vehicle theft from May of 2022. Just an example of the forensic work our detective division does. A vehicle was stolen after the keys were removed from the second vehicle in the driveway. 2 suspects were identified from latent fingerprints. Both were arrested for theft, RSP, and loitering and prowling at nighttime. Community events were a blast last month. We are doing the Thanksgiving food drive. This is ongoing now. It's what we were talking about with Commissioner Kurtz. Collaboration with Montgomery County East SWAT team, the Montgomery County Chiefs Association, and the Department of Health and Human Services. We're participating in a Thanksgiving food drive until November 18th. So bring non-perishable foods to the lobby of the police station, and we'll make sure that gets out to help people in our various communities. We have going on right now, our Future Crime Fighters are back in action. That's the Crime Scene Investigation Club for teens that happens through the library. It's a weekly program. It's being presented by the police department and the library for students grades 6 to 12. Another community event was a trunk or treat that I talked about. We currently have going on the Citizens Police Academy. Thursday, October 20th was this year's class began. To give the residents a behind the scenes look at police work, Citizens Police Academy will run 5 weeks, and then we'll be running it early next year. I think I've recruited 1 person tonight.
So we'll at least have one attendee next year. And traffic safety Operation Safe Stop, LMPD participated in Operation Safe Stop on Wednesday, the 19th, during National School Bus Safety Week. Purpose was to alert motorists of dangerous passing stop school buses. So this is a program run by our traffic safety unit, and 1,365, without my glasses, is that right?
Yep.
1,365 incidents, medical assistant calls 62s, the illustrious Bob Shaw, that helped out the fire calls, and vehicle accident reports were 42. The burglaries on Huntington Pike, again, make sure you call 911 if you see something out of place. I would like to note from our budget meeting, we noticed a reduction in vehicle crashes 3 years in a row. Maybe we can attribute that to the expansion of our traffic safety unit 4 years ago. That sounds good. But hopefully we'll keep moving in the right direction with that. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Fire Marshal Shelley.
Good evening. October was a busy month for the fire department. We had fire prevention programs at Valley Christian, Pine Road, Gloria Day Preschool, St. Albert's. We had over 500 children attended, and the guys did an outstanding job of teaching the kids, and they really appreciate us coming out. We had a good turnout for the open house, Fire Prevention Day on October 8th. We assisted Lower Southampton with a working fire on October 6th. We did assist the police on unfortunately a bad accident on October 15th that weekend. And Halloween night, the fire company was out giving out candy to all the trick-or-treaters. We did end up with no candy when we came back, so it must have been a good night. And the kids, again, they enjoyed the fire truck. Edits was a fantastic success this year. We had it at, we had the final after action report at Normandy Farms. Our speakers were just overwhelmed and how impressed that we can all work together with different genres of the first responders. We had police staff and we had the Commissioner's Canale and Commissioner Owner, and I apologize for not putting you in the report. So I apologize. I just noticed that. But we also want to plan for shooting that again for 2024. Montgomery County Health is distributing flu and booster shots to all the first responders. They're also monitoring the cases for the flu and COVID. And there's a new storage building that was built up in Eagleville. We're just waiting for some final inspections to put that in service, which will basically house most of our elite specialty units, USAR, hazmat, the drones, lights, the radio communications van and the bus, and then the dedication for the Upper Dublin substation will be sometime this week. That'll have one truck from USAR, the search and rescue team, hazmat, and some basic supplies for the eastern end of the county. UNOs are still steady. Bob and I and the fire department has been reviewing the plan for Philmont Country Club. I'm also working with Tim Woodrow on some road widening and some areas of that there's going to be a slope to get the apparatus in the back. We also spoke with Griffin from Bowler on hydrant placement and some of the roads. And Montgomery County Health was down last month, and they hit all of our restaurants and nursing homes, and they hit them pretty hard on their kitchens. So I was back out working with them, and everybody that I went back out to do a re-inspection on their kitchen hood systems and mantle systems are just almost up to date. There's only 2 that are outstanding in the minor. And we have a new maintenance person at the ProMedica. I'm meeting with him this week, and Steve and I have been down to the Western project with looking at final inspections, accessibility, and some fire protection.
Any questions from the board? Anything from the public? Bob, excellent job with that. I know you're on the executive committee with that. It was phenomenal. I'd highly recommend anybody who can make that in 2 years, make it. That brings me to my liaison reports. Library, they had movie night, as Denise was talking about. That was exceptional, probably 250 plus. They played bad guys. The kids had a blast. They have Friday matinees coming up. And they also have a family historian lineage coming up as well. Check out their website for the details on that. Regarding HVAA, soccer is wrapping up. The dugouts are in progress, as Steve already addressed, and basketball should be starting up shortly. So looking forward to a good winter. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Canali. That completes our advertised and published agenda items. Is any public comment for non-agenda items at this time? Okay, hearing none, then I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for a good meeting.
Thank you.
Going down.